Long live Shamako.
Wes, come here.
Shamako for vice president. Xander Schauffele owes me half his paycheck. I can jinx or reverse jinx anybody better than anybody in the entire world.
All right. We were supposed to have interviews today.
Yep.
However, something came up, so we're going to have those. I don't know exactly when, but we're going to have a couple of college football players on here.
Yeah, we'll have it soon whenever they can make it on. It's no big deal. They'll get less busy. They'll let the show back up. I think usually those guys get the month of, pretty much most of the month of June off, I think, typically. And they show back. I mean, a lot of them take summer. A lot of them will be there for summer courses to get those out of the way so you don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to do much during football season. But, they'll find some time to get those guys on for sure.
And then we have one coming into the studio, which I'm very excited about next week. Ryan will be excited as a huge Baylor fan as well. I'll hint it that way. But we got a lot to talk about. I know you're just stoked to talk more NBA playoffs.
Oh, yeah, for the people at home. Let's see. Look at this. Look at this, folks. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. The whole team gets hurt. You get a six-pack of Pepsi.
At least you admit it.
The whole team gets hurt. You get a six-pack of Pepsi.
If it was
I wish I used to have luck. Listen, I would have taken that luck 2 years ago. I've never been that lucky in my entire life, but for a six-pack of Pepsi, baby, the whole New York Knicks roster got hurt.
I felt like a six-pack of bottles was the same as a 12-pack of cans.
That's fine.
So,
I mean, I'm just going to have you take them back home anyway and put them in your fridge.
Well, I'm not drinking them. I'm going to label them with your name on
When
there.
you watch basketball over there, your dad will you know what? I'm going to share these with Big Dog. Victory Pepsis with Big Dog. I'm going to let him.
Y'all are going to toast
yes. He's going to have unlimited Pepsis. Although he usually only drinks the minis.
Yeah, he does.
A lot of caffeine for him.
I purposely drink the minis when he buys them just because I enjoy getting yelled at, I enjoy.
I'm actually surprised he didn't chirp me for drinking his minis here. I was just about to say, I'm sure he gets on Bailey all the time. And listen, Big Dog, show up on Mondays. I'm going to drink all your little fucking Cokes, okay? Okay, well, that's fine. This is my second one. That's fine.
Real quick, okay. Should we connect the other mic and give it to Bailey right now or no? Is this too late? We've already started the podcast.
Oh, I don't. It's up to you guys. Go
Bailey,
ahead,
what do you think? You want a mic or no? All right, we'll do it next time.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think we need to start having that mic.
I was actually thinking about that the other day. I think I powered through 3 little ones, and I'm just I think I left Big Dog with 2 in there. He showed up going, "What the fuck? Where did all my mini Cokes go?" And then I was like, then he's gonna realize it's me, and then he's probably legitimately that's how I played it out in my head. Is he's gonna bitch to Bailey, but he's gonna be like, "That's okay, Turner's my boy," so he can have two. My phone's on the ground over there. I'm gonna have to grab it in a second. Big Dog sent me about 5 paragraphs on what to say on the podcast. Basically, I'm going to break it down quickly. He's going to be on the show next week with a big reveal. It might be a 3 or 4 part series. He wanted to say these are some things that.
Oh, Westbrook just let out a nice little fart.
God, these are things that Dylan doesn't even know about his father, but how he shaped and saved this country.
I know everything about my father that's true. Now, what he spouts, all the bullshit he spouts out his mouth every day, that is falsified. I cannot speak to that. But the reality, what is reality? I'm very aware of the reality of my father. And he has not been on the show in, a month now?
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I haven't wanted him on the show. And really, I don't want him on the show because we're trying to get guests on here. We're trying to be, we might drop an occasional F-bomb here and there. But we're pretty clean when we're talking. And we're entertaining enough without him. He comes on, and all of a sudden it's okay, we need a 2 to 3 month gap before we get somebody else on the show. I mean, it's a fucking problem. It really is. So, and you fucking egg it on. We were talking about this week. So
listen, he just likes to have himself a little fun. Okay, he's passionate about things I'm not going to say. I mean, I would love to say it, but like you said, I guess we have to distance ourselves from his favorite activities.
It really is like a little kid.
You can beep it, but midget tossing. I mean, you can beep that out, but that's his favorite pastime. And if he wants to talk about throwing midgets and how aerodynamic they are, then
As long as people know it's a character, I'm fine with it because, I mean, even like people liked it in Wolf of Wall Street.
Is it a character?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're gonna go with that regardless. If I don't put that on there, can he be on the show at all? No, he cannot.
Not. He's a character.
Yeah.
But anyway, big things coming from Big Dog, folks. So stay tuned. Anyway, that's all I really got. Oh, also, I had to add this too because I'm contractually obligated with the studio space. But there was a big time standoff going on down the street with the cops and some guy coming out. Dylan said with his hands up, it looked like it was going to end peacefully. But Big Dog said he's lucky he didn't. That guy's lucky he didn't stop by because he would have walked out, pistol whipped him. And said, "What? Are you feeling lucky, bitch?" Is that what he claimed?
It was something along those lines. I think he said, "I would have got out of my car and pistol whipped that bitch, and I would have said, 'Do you feel lucky, motherfucking punk?'"
Yeah.
Well, do you, motherfucker? And
so basically, the guy got really lucky. It was the police and not Big Dog. So
when I was driving,
I think that's all. I think that's all I got for him today. We can move on with the show.
God bless you for gracing.
Yes, you got to plug. You got to plug his. You got to, it's like, you got to pay for the ads. Those are ads.
Got to pay the bills.
You got to pay the bills.
Yeah. It was when I was driving here, the cop, it was like a county sheriff came up on my, completely like past my car when I was trying to turn off the access road. And then he turned his lights on and passed me. First, I thought he was pulling me over, but I did nothing wrong. Then he just passed me and turned his lights right back off. So I remember thinking, I was like, when I get on the podcast, I'm going to say something about this bullshit. That motherfucker turned his lights on just to go past me. And in reality, I pull up like a half a mile later, and there's a guy with fucking rifles pulled, and there's 8 cops there. Don't know what happened. No news reports yet, but interesting morning here over at the Slobberknocker Sports Podcast and Slobberknocker Sports Network. But we'll get into the podcast now. We'll talk some sports, some NBA playoffs. I know Turner's thrilled to talk some more NBA.
Association, baby.
Don't worry. We're like less than a month away from the end of the NBA. And then all we'll have to do until August or early September is NFL and college football previews, which is what you love. So we're almost there. Don't worry. Just plug through. Luckily, you have not taken the hibernation pill that Big Dog has invented, so you are still here with us. But it's
a great idea.
He's Uncle T. I'm Coach Lieck. This is the Slobberknocker Sports Podcast. Thanks for listening. Episode 34. As we continue to plug along here.
Let's just. I know you have the script there.
No, go ahead.
Go script. Let's just start. Let's just start the golf here. Xander Schauffele owes me half his paycheck. I can jinx or reverse jinx anybody better than anybody in the entire world. The guy is the biggest choker in the sport. I think he, coming into the PGA Championship, he hadn't won a major.
Nope.
And he was 2 of 8.
2 of 9.
Well, yeah.
With the lead going into the last day,
Going in with the 54-hole lead.
Yeah.
2 of 9.
Yeah.
Yesterday, he's nails. He makes everything. It's like 7, 8-footers for par, 10-footers for birdie, whatever he needs. He makes everything. Gets up and down. Putt lips in, wins. If it wasn't for me saying that, there's 0% he holds on the lead. And he does exactly what I told everybody in the podcast. He's going to get a top 5. He's going to end up in second place. Truth be told, I was at the Brahmas game yesterday, and I was watching the Brahmas and the PGA on my phone as much as I could.
I was watching him,
and I was like, man, it looks like he is comfortable and he is going to win. I think it really came down to him having a very, very comfortable pairing with Morikawa. The guys are friends, and Schauffele with his newfound length, comparatively hits it further than Morikawa. So it's not like you have Rory or Bryson who are hitting it 30 yards by him, and then he's always trying to play catch up. Morikawa was the perfect pairing for him. Is very comfortable. He saw putts go in early. All the credit to him, held him off. DeChambeau played great. It was a bogey-free 64, they said. And they asked him in the interview afterwards. He goes, hey, do you think that would have been good if he goes, yeah, I absolutely did. I thought that if I would have come out and shot at 64, I would have won the tournament. Yeah. And it was a bogey-free 64. He made some big putts for par. But I think he'd be the first one to tell you that he left some out there. Because I remember early in the round, he didn't make birdie on the par 5. And then the almost drivable par 4 for him that's like 340-something yards.
He made par.
He made par as well. So, he definitely left some shots out there. He putted really well.
He said that he was like, I putted on that. I watched that interview and he said something about like, I thought it was weird. I didn't understand what he was saying. He goes, I guess he put so much on his driver because he was like, I had my B game, but I putted A+. I was chipping, I was A+. Like,
for sure.
Everything he said was like A+, but then he was like, I had my B game. The one thing that bothers me about him is he said something like, I thought my B game was good enough to win. Like, I thought it would have been good enough to win having my B game. I don't understand that. Maybe he meant just driving the ball, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, he had a real lucky break. I think it was 16. I saw a
yeah.
highlight. I mean, he had a terrible shot, hit a tree, bounced right in the middle of the fairway, and made birdie. So I guess, it probably did,
Balanced out.
that whole making birdie and then, not making it on the par 5. It probably all balanced out. And like you said, he putted unbelievable. He never putts that well.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think on the back 9, I think you said he was the betting favorite at that point. When Hovland tied it or got it to within 1, and then Xander
took the lead.
He took the lead by 1,
For
right?
As Xander was finishing a hole,
you would have thought he looked dialed in. He was making his putts, hitting really, really good iron shots on the greens. You thought, especially with the history of Xander, that Hovland was going to end up winning.
Question for you.
Yeah.
So I like Victor Hovland a lot. We've talked about it. I was betting him like last year to win some majors, of course, and he just hasn't broken through. And then of course he wins the PGA. Was that 2 years ago? Because Rory won it this last year, right? Or did he win it last year?
Let's see.
I believe Rory won it in 2023. Hovland won it in 2022, if I remember correctly. Regardless, I'm curious what you think of Victor Hovland in terms of like, okay, he was this young, up-and-coming golfer I think a lot of people like, and finished, I think, 2nd or 3rd at the British Open.
So funny enough, we actually talked about this. He hasn't won a major yet. He got tied for 2nd, Hovland.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's never
won. So
won.
you're saying he didn't. Yeah, I always forget. I always thought he won that one, but he got 2nd.
He got 2nd.
He played really well.
He played really good. I think he was the leader. Him and Rory maybe were tied going in. They were together that last group. But yeah, he's played really, really good. And every time I think, okay, he's going to break through, he just doesn't do it. This was a perfect opportunity. He was the betting favorite. I was watching the live odds, just monitoring them for, entertainment purposes. And I think like Xander had been the leader all day. Hovland took the lead, I think went 20 under, and Xander was still 19, or maybe it was 18 and 19.
Yeah,
regardless.
I think it was 18, 19, but 18, whatever.
Yeah, and then I think Hovland bogeyed a hole not too long after that. Something happened, or Xander birdied it, and then Hovland just parred all the way through. Regardless, do you think Hovland, because he's been really bad this season, and nobody thought he was going to compete for this, and out of nowhere, he still shot, or he was shooting 6 under going to the last hole. He ended up bogeying it because after he missed the birdie putt, he was just completely gone. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
But do you think he's going to break through? Also, I'm curious your thoughts just on, like, in terms of golfing. They talked a lot about him having, like, changed his swing coach, like, 4 times in the last year.
That's what happened.
Going into this tournament, he went back to the other dude, flew out to Vegas for 1 day, and they were like, it took 30 minutes for him to feel like he was hitting it good again, and he legitimately, it showed.
Was it Butch? I don't know who I know Butch Harmon's out in Vegas. I don't know who his coach is, but who he went back to. But yeah, no, it's the classic tale of golfers trying to do too much. Victor Hovland was playing out of his mind the last year. And then he decided, oh no, I can go get new ideas and tinker new ideas and become even better and get over the hump. It's the dumbest thing in the world you can do. Andy North, and I think someone else was talking about, is like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, what are you doing? You're playing out of your mind. I do believe with him going back to the old swing coach when he was playing that good at the end of last year.
Joe Mayo is the name of the coach.
So whoever the guy is, going back to his comfort level and realizing that he's not just going to go out and become like a shot and a half better with a new coach or whatever he's trying to do, because he was playing so good.
He's so good.
Golfers are just neurotic, and this is what they do.
Do you think he's going to break through now?
Yeah, he'll win. I'm not going to say he'll win a major this year because there's 2 majors left.
Right.
But the next 2 and the 4 next year, he'll win one of those 6 majors, in my opinion. I think he's going to be that good.
I mean, he
He was
like
playing
the
that
shining
good last
star
year.
coming up on the tour. And
that's if he doesn't leave to live. Because
right,
there's been all kinds of
a controversy.
And if Rory, here's the thing, if Rory leaves to live, I think Hovland's the next one out the door if they're offering him that amount of money. Because it's not like, Hovland's a great golfer, but it's not like he's going to be remembered in the history books for winning a shit ton of majors. So why would you not take the money?
So question then.
And Rory hadn't won fucking 10 years. So.
I get why Rory would do it. We had this discussion when we were golfing together last week where you were telling me like if somebody offers you $700 million, like regardless of how much money you have, unless you're like Tiger Woods, it just doesn't, it's almost impossible to say no. However, I have two like kind of counters to that. And I'm curious your thoughts, which is, you look at a guy like Jon Rahm, who was just at the top of his game, won the Masters, and, goes to live. And basically, I've heard a lot of people kind of say this, golf people, when I listen to some of those podcasts, like he was sold a bill of goods thinking he was going to go to live, get a ton of money, and pretty quickly they were going to go back to being able to play on the PGA Tour. That hasn't happened. He talked about it, how he missed some of the courses they play in the PGA. He's gotten a lot of heat from fans. Like I've heard that he really takes it hard. Like when, fans are yelling at the live players a lot of the time. Like Brooks Koepka doesn't give a shit. Bryson DeChambeau doesn't give a shit. But Rahm has always been a very likable guy and not really controversial in any way. He's very kind of soft-spoken. I've always liked Jon Rahm. But do you think that is a deterrent for a guy like Victor Hovland, who sees a guy like Jon Rahm, who had already won a major, who is more accomplished than Hovland, in his prime, goes to live and just has absolutely mentally fallen apart?
Yeah, Jon Rahm will get it back for sure. He's too talented not to. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely a deterrent, and guys think about it. It's just, man, when you're getting offered like Hovland, Rahm, I think got $600 million. So you think, I bet Hovland will get like $300 million. They say Rory will get like $700 million to go.
That's crazy.
The fact of the matter is even eventually, man, especially with all these guys going, that's the pitch. It's like as soon as Rory and Hovland go over there, there's going to be no choice but
to merge.
To let them come over and play PGA events. The hands will be forced because you lose 80% of the talent. The PGA Tour is not going to be like, no, we don't want them back, because the ratings at that point, dude, when it's none of those guys playing, the ratings will plummet.
At that point,
now you still have Rory and you have, these guys, that are Scottie and whatnot. But I mean, we're going to have, if they all leave, we're going to have Scottie Scheffler. First of all, he always wins, but then like against those guys without Hovland, without Hovland, without Rory, when he leaves, that's what everybody suspects. No more Rahm, no Cam Smith, no DJ, no Koepka. And then
a lot of the entertaining guys.
Ludwig is probably,
you think he's going to go too?
I don't know. The thing is, if everybody else on his Ryder Cup team goes, if Hovland and Rory and Rahm's already there, probably. Why would you not take, and Ludwig's a rising star, but I guarantee they give him, if they're paying those guys, they're going to give him $200 or $300 million. He's like the next big name in golf. So it's like I said,
he was disappointing.
Yeah, once this got rolling, I was thinking at the beginning like no one was going to go, but then as soon as people started going, it was always going to be the snowball effect. And then now you have the PGA Tour commissioner going, oh, well, no, it's, doubling back and then letting the Saudi, the PIF or whatever the investment fund's called, come in and throw money in the PGA Tour, and it's made the purses higher. And you have guys going like Jay Monahan 6 months before this said, you're taking Saudi blood money. Keep in mind, these are the people that were behind 9/11. Said that. Next thing you know, he's in business with them. You're like, fuck you, dude. I'm going to go take my $300 million.
It kind of sucks because like as somebody from the outside, I don't want to root for the live guys. Like I don't dislike them. Like I'm not like, I'm not thinking like, oh, you piece of shit for going to live or anything like that. But I kind of like the loyalty of the guys who stayed on the PGA Tour. I do think it's kind of selling out. That said, if I was presented with that opportunity, I don't know what I would do, but staring down the face of $500 million, that's a very hard thing to say. And Dustin Johnson talks about that. Like, he's like, I don't care. Like, this is about, I can have generational wealth for my family forever. if I take this deal. Like, I'm a major champion already. What does it fucking matter? And he's right.
The final nail in the coffin, apparently, with Rory going is what people are saying, and it's not been confirmed, but with him going, obviously him filing divorce seems, a lot of people think like that's a big indicator that he is that he tried to get back on the player-led, like, PGA, I forget what they're called, like the rules group or whoever's on the committee. It's like Tiger, Spieth, and I'm making up the names. It's like Tiger, Spieth for sure, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, like all these Americans. And Rory was like, okay, well, I guess I want to come back on. And they were like, no. They wouldn't let him back on the board because Rory sees the game being more international.
Right.
And he's saying they have to adopt that. And those guys are like, no, we can play in America like we always have, and we can make it work. But as soon as they lose Rory, man, I'm telling you, it's going to be really, really hard, because then you think Hovland's got to go. You think he's going to go too if Rory goes. It's just probably going to happen. And I think Rory is definitely a different story. And I'm sure his peers somewhat call him out about it in the sense that, like, say he had won 4 or 5 majors in this last 10 years where he's won 0, he definitely stays in place for legacy, because then, he's got the potential to finish like, up there with like Arnold Palmer or guys that, have that many majors where it's like, okay, you're in, obviously he was going to catch Jack or Tiger, but
Okay. So then let's say Rory does go. You have guys like, especially Americans, because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, the only major Americans who are like at the top of their game to go were like really, really Brooks Koepka, and I guess you could say Bryson DeChambeau, but he was kind of having struggles when he went over there.
Yeah, he was kind of in the middle of like, he went with the just try to hit the ball as far as I could, and then realized like, okay, this isn't going to result in ultimate success. I need to dial it back. I want to hit it far, but I need to dial it back and not look like a bodybuilder on the golf course.
It's crazy. But so you have guys like Scottie Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, all these guys, Colin Morikawa. Do you think Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, who have been there for a long time?
They're never leaving. Those guys are going to stay. Because they're not going to get... I say they're never leaving. Obviously, there's a scenario where they could, but the fact is that Ricky, when he was fighting for his life in his tour card, passed up on like, I think the speculation was like $100 million from Liv that he could have had, and instead of fighting for his PGA tour card and stayed. And I think that goes into it where it's like too much respect for him. And I just don't think Spieth or Thomas are the kind of guys that want to leave. They're set up for life. Obviously, sure, it would be nice to get another, but they're not going to get the kind of money that some of these other Europeans got anyway, right? So I just don't see that happening unless everybody just jumps and then they hear
that's the
PGA Tour go,
well,
we're going to merge next year. And if like Liv's offering you $100 million, okay, well then take the $100 million.
But then at that point, why would Liv continue to offer people?
I don't think they are.
Yeah.
But who knows? The Saudis are just strange the way they do it. I feel like they want to just show that they're the big swinging dicks in the room, and they're like, no, we can just buy anything we want. Yeah. So it's like,
it's almost like they just want to flex that they just took everybody and took over golf just by essentially writing blank checks, which is what they've done.
And this money's nothing. It comes out of the ground for them in less than, 24. It makes zero difference.
I want to move on, but I want to ask you one last question. I was looking at the odds for Torrey Pines U.S. Open coming up here, next major. When is it? Next month, right? So
it's at Torrey?
It's at Torrey Pines. Oh, wait, is that what? I'm sorry. I got it mixed up. Pinehurst. It's at Pinehurst.
Oh, okay.
U.S. Open's at Pinehurst. And so looking at the odds, I thought maybe because Scottie, and given we talked about which we didn't even talk about how Scottie got arrested, which is crazy.
Oh yeah, that was like the big story, but it's crazy. Everybody
knows about it. Yeah, I mean,
misunderstanding, like whatever. But
it is funny that the cop didn't have his body camera on, which is illegal or against police policy. After like, there's a bunch of controversy with some shootings a couple years ago where they didn't have their body cameras on. You are not allowed to ever turn your body camera off. And then all of a sudden, his body camera's off right there.
Here's the one thing I will say about that, which I think why, and I don't know this for a fact, but they said he was a detective, this guy, and there was someone died. So what I heard was happening, those guys were out like directing traffic. So say he had his car there with just his lights on, just like directing traffic. I don't think he was like suited up for like a patrol, if you will. It was just like Scottie blew through it. From my understanding, and he was like, "The fuck are you doing? You can't go." And then I'm making this up, but I feel like he got in his car and chased him down. And then now he definitely may have been being an asshole when he threw him on the ground, not knowing what was going on, which I assume, because I can't imagine Scottie Scheffler being like, "Fuck you."
He's just the last guy to do that. Like,
I just don't. It definitely may have been a power trip, but definitely thank God for that detective. He didn't have that on, because if he did, he would have been up shit creek.
That's
for sure.
Almost what I think. I almost was like, maybe he did have it on.
It seems like it played out, but Scottie was pretty nice at the end in the interview, where it was like, because dude, they'll throw, like, when they say resisting arrest, like that could literally be like swinging around going, "No, this is a misunderstanding." Like, that's legitimately resisting. They'll throw that. And so that guy probably had the opportunity to put that in his report when he was like, "Oh shit, this is Scottie." When someone told him like, "No, another officer sent him through because he's a golfer." And then the guy realized, "Oh shit," like, whatever.
Oh, but shit, that's the biggest guy in the world.
The best in the report was hilarious. Part of my take was talking about it. And it said at the very end of the report, "Officer so-and-so's $80 khakis were damaged beyond repair." And Big Cat was like, "The guy shit his pants, man. He found out what he did. He shit his pants." I was cracking up.
Well, last thing on this, I was listening to, there's a show on ESPN radio called Carlin versus Joe. I don't know what Carlin's first name is or his last name is, but Joe Fortenbaugh and this guy, Chris Carlin is his name, I believe. And this guy's talking about how, like, it was the morning of it happening, and he's like, "But why on earth, like, everything else aside, why would you, if somebody tries to open your door, why would you ever keep driving?" And I'm thinking in my head, like, man, if you don't know that guy's a cop, which is exactly what happened, and you're the number one golfer in the world, why on fucking earth would you stop and be like, "Yeah, go ahead"? For all he knows, it could be a fucking crazy fan.
Yeah.
How does he know any different? And I think he also tried to open the back door. I could be wrong, but because the whole thing was he got dragged, supposedly. Like, he grabbed the door and he kept driving. It was just obviously a big misunderstanding. It wasn't that big of a deal. It sucks for Scottie, even though he ended up playing fine that day. It kind of sucked for him. Like, it was another, throw another rock in the bucket in terms of like what he was dealing with that week. Had a kid, probably didn't get a lot of sleep, hadn't played the last couple weeks. Now you get arrested the day before, like, didn't even know if he was going to play that day after it happened. Anyway, crazy story how that happens. Like, I remember waking up to your text about Scottie Scheffler getting arrested, but just of all the people to get arrested, that guy is the most like absurd one.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, what's the misunderstanding here? I knew it was either like he went out and had, because it's been a long week with the kid. I thought it was probably like
DUI.
Okay, yeah, but he has drivers probably most of the time. But I figured like maybe Scottie Scheffler had like one too many beers at the bar and blew like 0.09. Yeah, So anyway, well, I'm glad it was a misunderstanding and everybody was fine.
Also, like, how many of those guys drive themselves to the major championship? That just shows you, like, he really is like a very just down to earth guy. But last question, I do want to move on.
Yeah.
Do you think Scottie deserves to be, he's plus 400 at Pinehurst, and I did listen to some, and I'm not the biggest golf expert by any means, but I did listen to some people talk this week like, hey, if there was a major to fade Scottie at, it's this one, because Pinehurst much better suits his game. U.S. Open, he's a deserved big favorite at that one. Is plus 400 still that crazy of a number, or is he just that good and you think he will win this tournament? He's never won outside the month of April, by the way, in his career. Not once.
That's funny.
Yeah. Any tournament, not just majors.
Yeah, no, I know, that's crazy. I mean, he's the deserving favorite. I think 4-1's a little bit of a shorter price, but I mean, he's just so much better than everybody else, tee to green. And then, like, the odds makers are like, well, if he putted like really, really well, he'd be like 2-1 to win.
Yeah.
But the only reason he's 4-1 is because we don't know how he's going to putt, but we can pretty much count on tee to green, him being better than everybody.
So is he, like, in terms of if you took out putting, is he as is he as good or close to as good as Tiger was in his prime?
I would have to look at the numbers. It's just so different with the technology. I would say there's nobody as dominant as Tiger.
Well, dominant, right? But in terms of like skill, like right now.
But if you looked at like the numbers, like proximity to the whole driving accuracy and stuff like that, I would guess, and this is an absolute guess.
Yeah.
I want to get roasted by Tiger people because there's a lot of Tiger people out there.
We love Tiger.
I would say that. Yeah, probably. I guarantee you the numbers
from a number standpoint.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, because obviously it's so different now, but like I'm sure he drives it further than Tiger
right.
did back then. It's obviously the clubs and the ball, and it's probably
golf.
It's just Tiger was also playing with a shitty Nike golf ball most of his career.
I know, that's just crazy.
Like,
it's actually wild that he was that good with that ball. Okay, let's do real quick a few things. We'll do best thing we saw this week. I'll go first, then I'll let you go. So the best thing I saw this week, and I'm gonna get like a fucking roasted by PETA here, but I saw this. My buddy Jonathan sent me this. It was like a roulette wheel, right? And like they put this hamster in the middle. I'll put the video on here.
Yeah, you got to put the video.
But they put the hamster in the middle. You bet on the number like a roulette wheel. And then they put him in this little thing and spin the thing, and then they open it up, and the hamster just runs into a hole. Whichever hole it is wins. I was like, we're going to Vegas. Hopefully you're coming with me, but in July. And Jonathan was talking about maybe going, and he goes, hey, do they have these in Vegas? And I sent it to you. That was absolutely not really a sports thing, but just best video I saw this week.
Was that like in America or was it a different country?
Dude, there's no fucking way that
was
in
I
America.
Just remember, I figured it what. No, there's all kinds of crazy shit that goes on in back rooms of America. I didn't know if the hamster roulette wheel, but it was fucking hilarious.
It's fucking great.
Yeah, you got to put it up for people. They'll laugh at that. Yeah. Very, very funny. I'm doing the best thing I saw this week was your San Antonio Brahmas. I was there in person. Clinch a playoff spot, baby. Wade had the defense playing good, looked good, got dicey at the end.
God, did he look good.
Stoops, oh yeah, white hair.
That white,
beautiful.
luscious hair. Oh my
beautiful
God.
Hair. Stoops just looks, God love him, looks like he doesn't give a shit. Renegades, I think, are like 1-7 or something
bad.
like that. They're real bad.
And yet they scored 49 points last week or something like that. It was ridiculous.
Went off, had a crazy game, but it made things interesting. They scored with like 1:20 left. So then we had the UFL version of the onside kick, which is crazy. You only had to get 12 yards, but luckily, I'm never a big, fan of bringing 3 on like a 4th and 12. But Wade knew what he was doing because he brought 3, and they got there for the sack, and they got in there. They got in there quick. So
with that,
they were just playing the chains. They had like 8 guys back there between 8 and 14 yards away, just playing the yard to gain marker. And anyway, made a nice play, won the game by, I guess they won by 5. Yeah. So now they play Birmingham next, which is the best team. They're undefeated. And then they'll play the Battlehawks the last game, and they'll play the Battlehawks again. I think the last 2 games are simply just to figure out if we can get a home game against the Battlehawks, because the whatever they call the UFL Bulls in St. Louis, no matter what, apparently.
The Uper Bowl.
Did we host last year for the XFL Super Bowl, or was it in St. Louis?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Someone was saying it was in St. Louis, but I thought they said we had it.
Wait,
but
for the XFL or the USFL?
No, the XFL, because Battlehawks were XFL last year.
I want to actually say that we did host it, but I don't know.
I thought that we were supposed to, but I'm not sure. I really don't know.
Yeah, it was at the Alamodome. It was.
Okay.
Wait, Arlington won last year? I thought Birmingham. Is Birmingham in the USFL? Were they in the USFL or no? Were they in the XFL?
I thought they were in the XFL.
No, you might be right. Let's see. Birmingham. No, they must have been in the USFL because
they're undefeated, right? Like they hadn't lost since last year.
Yeah, they were Arlington, Houston, Orlando Guardians, San Antonio Brahmas, then it was DC Defenders, Seattle Dragons, Battlehawks, and the Vegas Vipers. So I guess they got rid of
that was your dad's team. I can't believe they got rid of the Vipers.
Who's his team now besides the Brahmas? Does he have one?
Battlehawks, of course.
The Battlehawks.
McCarron, his boy.
Oh, that's right. I forgot McCarron. Well, anyway. Yeah, Brahmas clinch a playoff spot. Our San Antonio Brahmas, they didn't make the playoffs last year, did they? Or did they lose in the first round? Can't remember. Have no idea. Regardless, we got a football team in San Antonio. I will say this. I do think if we had a Major League Baseball team and or a Major League Football team, we would be a pretty good city to have one of those. I think we'd have a good fan base. I know the XFL is hard to base it on because it's hard to get people. And you talked about this when we were talking yesterday. Like, okay, the tickets aren't too bad. They're $15 and it's pretty much general admission. But they charge $30 fucking for parking down there.
When I parked, I was like,
are you shitting me?
$30. What am I at the Final Four?
I mean, it's
I
crazy.
bet the Final Four parking now is like $200.
No,
it's gotten all out of hand. Yeah,
easily it's $100. I know at Jerry World when it first opened, the parking was $100 for a regular fucking Cowboys.
Back when we used to go a long time ago, when Wade was coaching for the Cowboys, there'd be people on the highway, old Cowboy Stadium, before they even moved to Jerry's World. There'd be people selling parking, like a parking pass to park at the stadium for like $200 on the side of the highway. Like, it's just, anyway. NFL teams, if we had an NFL team, obviously we won't until Jerry Jones dies. But if we do get one, because he's the one that blocks it, because Tom Benson and Red McCombs try to move both their teams here. But if we did have one, it would be an instant sellout every game. The NFL's easy, man, because you only have 9 home games, right? So no problem sellout. Baseball's always been the great debate, but we would have better, with us being such a touristy town to begin with, we would have much better attendance than like, Tampa's fucking horrible, but like Detroit, Tampa, Cleveland.
You have something against Detroit, don't you?
Yes, I do. Cleveland, Minnesota. I bet we would have to have better attendance in all those. The Chicago White Sox, no one goes to those games. Now you move the White Sox to San Antonio, which it never will. South side. I mean, there's some diehard Sox fans out there, so no disrespect to the White Sox. Their attendance is still way better than fucking Oakland or Tampa.
Right.
But yeah, it would be interesting to see. I don't think we're ever going to get a major league team. I think we'll get, hopefully they build that new badass stadium for the Spurs and we get a really cool AAA stadium. And honestly, having AAA baseball is almost more fun in the sense because it's so much cheaper and the games are, if you have a nice AAA stadium to go to, it's just as fun.
The missions
the Wolf Stadium's just a shithole that no one wants to go to.
The missions aren't are they AAA or AA?
They're a AA team.
That's what I thought.
So they tried to bring the AAA team here, and we were actually the Brewers affiliate for that when they did do that.
I remember that.
Because they said they were going to build a stadium, and then the city didn't pass it. So, but if it does pass, the Spurs breaking ground on their stadium right there, like, Hemisphere, there will be a AAA baseball stadium,
They need to, we talked about this again yesterday when we were hanging out, but they need to redo the Alamo Dome. They need to do some upgrades because we've talked about it. It's a perfect city to host the Final Four every year. It's a perfect place to have an NFL team. You got a lot of things that could happen here, and I think it's a great spot. But in all fairness, that stadium is old as shit, and they really need to redo parts of it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dump.
It's a dump. I mean, like you said, the suites are real tiny. They're not upgraded. Whatever, they might have done a few upgrades for the Final Four a couple years ago, but even the regular stadium seating could be redone. I mean, it really wouldn't cost that much. Like, I'm not saying it'd be cheap, but like, you're not building a whole new stadium, right? And it's not like you just have to redo the boxes and make them nice and redo the stadium seating. And you have so many events there that it's worth it. Like, I just don't understand why you wouldn't be looking to do that. That thing has been around forever. Obviously, it wasn't good enough for the Spurs to stay in. I mean, it was massive, so that's part of the problem. But like, I just think you should invest in your city. And as someone who's a proponent of San Antonio and all those things, I think that would be a very beneficial thing for the city to do. Put some money into the stadium. We have a better chance of getting an NFL team at some point. We have a better chance of hosting more Final Fours and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, as far as I think hosting and, having an NFL team in the Alamo Dome's long gone, but I agree with what you're saying. Like, they got to do something to it because after this year, when we host the Final Four, I think they're going to be pretty much unwilling to play in San Antonio just because five more years later down the line, it's going to even be more outdated. You know what I
Especially
mean?
with all the new stadiums and all
Correct.
those things.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just not going to compete.
And the thing that stinks is I think obviously if you build a new Spurs stadium, it's not going to be, big enough to host Final Fours.
Right.
They're not going to be able to do that there.
Right.
So you can pretty much only do that in the football stadiums these days, which sucks. I get it because they want to have as many people in there as they can. But like we talked about this, going to the Final Fours, it's an awesome experience. But like I think Portnoy even said, it's like you can't, even with the good seats at the Final Fours, like you can't see shit. It's not like sitting courtside at the,
because when you have that many, it's flat. I mean, you're looking, it's not like a football field where it's 100 yards and whatever, 40 yards wide. You're looking at a 94 foot by 35.
So even if you have the best seats you possibly can have, like at a Final Four, which like Portnoy does when he goes, obviously, like I think he went when Michigan was there in San Antonio. It was like with all the media, with where the benches, where the court is, all the media, and you're still probably like 20 rows away,
right?
And you're not like elevated up. It's more of like a football stadium. You're sitting back,
and that's the problem I had with like they had the state tournament. They used to have it at the Frank Irwin Center in Austin.
That would have been a good venue for it. Yeah,
it's a great right. And so the thing I love about that is, that one was still outdated. Obviously, they got a new stadium, but you had floor seating, and there's still 17,000 seats in that arena. Obviously, not for a Final Four, but like it was a bigger college basketball stadium, or I guess on the bigger end, and you had floor seating. So like that's the one thing, like you mentioned just now, when you go to the state tournament, I believe they have like a couple rows of seats on the floor, and it's like 3 rows of flat seating. So if you're not in the front row, you're sitting right behind somebody at your same level. And then it raises up and you're so far back that it does raise up right here because there's like a barrier, but it's just flat all the way up pretty much. And I don't know, it's just such a less cool feeling. Like the crowd's not really like on top of you. You don't have people right on the floor. I don't know. I'm not a fan of how they set up that either. And I think that's something that could be redone. They could make it have more of a feel for like, a more intimate setting, I guess, is the thing I'm getting at. But I get it. It's designed as a football stadium, but you see the Final Four every year, and they're played in football stadiums, and you have that. So there's ways to do it. We're just outdated in that.
Yep.
Okay.
For sure.
Business of the week. I was thinking, I forgot to come up with one, and I thought about it a minute ago because I went there yesterday. You had actually mentioned this place to me. It's called the R2M Golf Academy and Driving Range in San Antonio. It's over off Ira Lee Road, which is kind of like if you're going 410 towards, I think 35. Is it 35 towards?
You
Austin?
basically can't find it unless you know where it is.
Okay.
You got to type that into that. Yeah, or you're not finding it.
But I'm just saying it's off 410, kind of by Perrin Vital.
It's behind Oakville Farms.
Behind Oakville Farms.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just a regular driving range, whatever, but they do have a really nice little putting green that you can go putt on. The prices aren't too bad. And then they've got a little, I hesitate to call it a par 3. It's more of a chip and putt type deal. And it's really more of a chipping type deal because the greens are just circles and they're not really greens, but it's $13 to play. And they're cool. They'll let you play 2 or 3 balls. You go over, it's like going to play putt, but you're practicing your game, working on your chipping and your, short game. So it was a nice little, I played 9 holes there. I played 3 balls and they told me I could, and there was nobody else out there. And I just, it was a fun little course between like 29 and 75 yard holes. So you only need to most people probably only need 2 clubs, maybe 3. So if you're not putting, you really only need 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, it was a nice little course. Go over there and check that out.
I used to go over there a lot when I was younger. I'm glad it's still open.
And I like that they're not, if you're going to a driving range, it's never really that packed. We went over there when I was younger and used to hit at that driving range, and it was never that crowded. And so it's kind of you go over to a lot of places like San Pedro's always just absolutely
get your truck
packed.
stolen out of the parking lot over there.
I forgot about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, my cousin got his car, for those wondering, got his truck, his diesel stolen out of the parking lot at San Pedro Par 3. So be careful over there,
don't go to the San Pedro.
It can happen anywhere. I'm not dogging on San Pedro Par 3,
no.
Which is a great place, by the way. That's
another
like that great business.
Yeah.
But you're right. San Pedro, all the ranges these days, especially like on a nice day, they're zoos. I mean,
It's crazy.
It's great. And I guess that's why we joke that like these green fees have gotten just so high everywhere that I think during COVID when nobody could do anything, they picked up golf. It was like drinking, golf, and like cigars, like the three things people picked up during like my buddy who owns a cigar shop in town is like, best year ever was like the COVID year because people were sitting at home looking for new hobbies.
It was the best year ever.
I guess I could smoke cigars, like, you know, so, but yeah, now San Pedro's a great place too, but it's nice to know that this, the place you're talking about, it's so many different names over the years, but
yeah,
the place you're talking about now has a nice putting green because back in the day, dude, the putting green was an absolute, disaster.
Well, let me say this. I didn't actually go on the putting green, so I don't know that it's
but it looked green.
It looked green.
All right.
It was big, and there was like 10 holes, and it looked nice. Like the people who were over there were putting when I started playing, and they were putting when I left.
Putting.
So obviously, it looked nice. I just
into
didn't see it up close. I was there to play the little par 3 course, but it looked like they had done that. Yeah, I mean, and no, actually, it's kind of cool. They look like they have done some renovations. Like last time I went out there, it was literally just an open field, and like you hit golf balls there, and that was it. I don't remember them having that chip and putt. Maybe they did. They have like a nice little like patio thing outdoor, and there's a deck with like a bay where you can hit where there's some shade too. Like they built a little deck right there, and so it's a cool little spot. So that's my business of the week. I wanted to get away from a restaurant for once because it's hard to find places. I don't go out and do a ton of shit, so that was a good little spot that I liked. Okay, we got to move on to the meat and potatoes of this show. Obviously, Turner's thrilled to be talking NBA.
Baby.
I know Bailey's been watching it nonstop. Everybody's so locked in. And we had some phenomenal games over the weekend and last week. All the series.
NBA expert.
Out of here.
Yeah. NBA expert. Yep. Had my voodoo doll out at the house. Jalen Brunson's hand. And I was getting OG's hamstring.
I will give you credit. And we can start with the Knicks series because that was the.
Keep in mind, I think I watched 2 of these games at your house.
You watched,
maybe?
Yeah.
2. And the rest of them, you're like, game 7, like legitimately you texting me updates. You're like, well, the Pacers won this game. I go, I had no idea it even started.
Yeah, you didn't.
I was at the UFL game watching golf on my phone. But I was like, okay, well, I might get the Pepsis.
To be fair, I didn't like, it was very clear early. Like the Pacers shot, it was the most absurd thing I've seen since the Spurs did it to the Heat like in 2014 in game 3 of the finals. They shot like 77% in the first half. It was absolutely absurd. I think they started the game something like 14 for 16. Could not miss. The Knicks weren't even playing bad offensively.
Your boy Haliburton was cooking.
Okay.
Haliburton.
No, thank you for bringing that up.
I just looked at the
Let's start
at the stats.
Fucking there.
26, baby.
Dude, it is absurd. I literally was going back on YouTube TV and rewinding and videoing it on my phone in slow motion because every single time the guy shoots the ball, he travels. And not like a little bit. It's absolutely
there was one
obvious.
There was one that you rewound. You're like, that's travel. I wasn't even looking. Like I was looking somewhere else. And then he did like the Cupid shuffle, not like a step back. He did the double
step back.
It was like 1 and then 2 and then shot. And Dylan's like, it's a fucking travel. And I was like, let me see it. And then I was like, oh yeah, it was a travel.
It was, dude. So here's what he does. So on the step back, it's like James Harden, right? When they had the debate about is James Harden's step back a travel. It's worse than that one. It really is. It's worse than that one because he gathers, takes a third, and then does the step back. So there's like a gather, a step, and then 2. Then on a catch and shoot jump shot, dude, he cannot even shoot a catch and shoot jump shot. It's like he was taught to play the game of basketball incorrectly, and in the NBA it just doesn't matter. But literally, when you catch a basketball, every coach in America at the high school level and the college level teaches you this. When you catch a basketball, you have to be stepping in with 1 foot, right? Like, so I'll show it real quick, right? Like, as I'm stepping in, my left foot is going so that I catch and just step with the second foot after I catch the ball. He will catch the fucking ball and then, like, takes a full second, step 1, 2. It's a travel every time. When he goes to the basket, He travels every single time. I honestly don't know what he is if he can't travel. I don't. And regardless...
Haters gonna hate. Haters gonna hate.
Regardless of all of that, the guy's still in the playoffs. I don't know what the numbers were after the last game. I don't know what he had, 25 points, whatever.
This one?
Yeah.
I think it was like 26.
Yeah, 26. Going into that last game of the series, he was averaging 3.5 points less in the playoffs than in the regular season. He was shooting the ball, I think, 7 or 8% worse from three, 5% worse from the field. He had averaged a full less assist a game. He has been significantly worse in the playoffs. He's had games where he's disappeared. He played good in the final game, to his credit. Now, if you call traveling, he probably scored 2 points the whole game. But literally, the guy, it's so frustrating, and maybe I am a hater, but I didn't have anything against this guy. I really didn't. Like, I never disliked Tyrese Haliburton, but I saw, hold on, wait, till I saw him get $52 million. When the whole time I was just like, I kind of like Haliburton when he was at Iowa State.
Yeah.
He got drafted by the Kings. They traded him to the Pacers. I was like, good for him. I don't dislike him at all. I kind of liked him in college. But two things bother me. One, they gave him $52 million. He's the third best player on the team. Legitimately. Miles Turner was the leading scorer going into that game. Pascal Siakam is probably the second best player. You could say he's the most important player because he's the point guard. But there's stretches in that series where TJ McConnell is they're better on the floor with TJ McConnell. That was happening for multiple games in this series. Where TJ McConnell is plus minus with 20 points better than Tyrese Haliburton. And they're playing against the Knicks who don't sub, so it's not like the matchups are any different. They're playing against the same team, same group. Regardless, all that said, credit to the Pacers for winning the series. They did what they were supposed to. They're the luckiest team to ever go to a conference finals. They beat the Bucks without Giannis and a limp Dame Lillard. They beat the Knicks without 4 rotational players, and then Brunson breaks his hand in Game 7. I know the game was already basically over when it happened. It's just, they caught every break they possibly could, and it still took a Game 7 to win this series against the Knicks. It's frustrating for me. Nothing against the Pacers, but the Knicks deserve to win that series if they're semi-healthy. If they have half their injured guys back, they win the series. Really, they could have won the series anyway if it weren't for the Game 3 ridiculous ending. They would have been up 3-0. Series is over. So anyway, Pacers advance.
The one thing I'll say about that is, like, I agree. I think the Knicks 100% would have won the series if they were healthy. I'm not going to be like big dog up here, okay? I think that they definitely would have won the series if healthy. The one thing I will say, the Game 1 inning and Game 3 innings were both bullshit both ways for both teams. The kickball, I'd say those evened out, but you're right. I mean, if the Knicks are healthy, they definitely win the series. That's really all I got on it. I mean, I think... I think that the Celtics, I know we're going to get into it. I think the Celtics are going to beat them in 5 games. They always have one stinker of a game. We talked about this last night. I think they'll take care of the Pacers in 5 games. Maybe the Pacers, I think it's going to go 5. I think it's more likely to go 6 than a sweep, only because I think the Pacers have 0 chance. I'm not saying they have any chance. Only because the Pacers do have sometimes those shooting nights where they shoot 65% or whatever it may be, that it's just dumb, but the problem is they play such bad defense that they could almost shoot that and still lose a game with the Celtics. I think it's going to go 5, and I think the Celtics make pretty easy work of them. But the fun game last night was not for you. I mean, it was just a wild game, that T-Wolves Nuggets last night.
We'll get into that in a second real quick. I want to let's quickly, since we're going through the East, we'll preview that series real quickly. I agree. Since you already brought it up, I'll just say, looking at the odds, what do you think the Celtics are to win the series? Minus what?
I'm going to say, I'm trying to remember what the Knicks were to win the series. What were the Knicks to win the series?
To beat the Pacers were minus 275, and the Pacers were plus 210.
Celtics are minus 500.
Minus 900.
Wow, that's wild.
That's crazy, right?
That really, I mean,
Vegas, that's what they think of the Pacers.
That's what, no, I get it. But I just think that, and I'm with you, like, I think the Celtics bet you made had good value, but it's just, a team that's led by Jason Tatum and Brown, I couldn't lay them minus 900 to beat anybody.
I don't disagree with you. I wouldn't lay minus 900 on them. We watched what happened last year where, they lost to the Miami Heat in almost got swept. I know they came back and forced the Game 7, but then lost Game 7 at home. Like, that's just, this Celtics team has never proven that they can do it. Now, this number is 100% more a product of Vegas is very, very aware of what I just said, which is that the Pacers don't deserve to be here. They are a team that should have lost in the first round, but won because of injuries. Should have lost in the second round, but won because of injuries. If you look at the odds to win the championship now, the Celtics are minus 170. The T-Wolves are plus 250. The Mavs are plus 500. The Pacers are 30-1. So it's a massive
Wait, what
difference.
are they? What are they to win the title?
The Pacers are 30-1,
sure,
and the next shortest is the Mavs at 5-1. So 5-1 for the Mavs, 2.5-1 for the T-Wolves. Celtics are minus 170 to win, and then you have the Pacers, who are just a massive underdog. So, this is obvious. I've talked about this. If the Pacers win this series, it'll be a horrible Eastern Conference Finals. I do agree with what you said, though. I do think it is more likely to go 6 than it is 4. The Celtics refuse to sweep teams. They just will not do it. They rely too much. This is why. They rely too much on the 3-ball, right?
Yeah.
So when you rely on the 3-ball, yes, in the long run, if you're a great shooting team, you're going to win a lot of games. That's why the Celtics won 60-plus games this year. However, if you play in the playoffs, it doesn't matter whether you're home or away. If you shoot that many threes, there is a variance to how you play. And if you have a bad night from 3 and you launch 45, 50 of them, it can cost you a game. That's why if you have faded the Celtics when they've played at home over the last 3 playoffs, you're up like 37 units, because that's what happens. They lose games at home that they shouldn't lose. The only way this becomes a series, is the Pacers are undefeated at home in the playoffs. Given, again, they didn't play the Knicks at home until they already had lost Anunoby. So they're playing the Knicks and Mitchell Robinson. They're playing the Knicks at their absolute worst in those games. But if the Pacers have a good night and the Celtics have an off night, the Celtics lost game 2 in both of the first 2 series. If the Celtics lose game 1 or 2 and it's 1-1 going back to Indiana, there is a way that Indiana just plays great at home and finds a way to win both games. Boston could shit themselves. I think the number should be closer to minus 650, like kind of what you said. I think 900 is crazy. Obviously, I like having my Celtics ticket sitting at minus 115 now when I got them at the beginning of the last series. Regardless, I think this is going to be a quick series. I think I saw plus 280 to end in 5, plus 3.
No, I was just looking.
No?
That's what I was like. It's crazy. I was
oh no, it's like plus 180, right?
Plus 160.
That's
and then 5,
nuts.
Yeah.
What is it for 4?
6 is 4's
plus 300.
Yeah, something like that. Sweeps like, let's see. No, it's 4-0 Celtics is plus 225. It says 4-1 is plus 175.
What's 6? What's 4-2? 4-2 Celtics
plus 425.
I almost wonder if it would be worth. It wouldn't, but if you took end in 4, end in 6, just because everybody thinks this is going to end in 5, and it probably will. I guess I just said they're not going to sweep them, so that'd be stupid. But I don't know. I have the Celtics always pull a weird thing here in the playoffs. I just don't know. I don't know. I
can't trust the Celtics, but we expect them to win.
Obviously, the Pacers are fucking terrible, and I think it's a bad matchup. You basically are playing a team that is better offensively than you, or just as good and way better defensively. Okay, so enough of the East.
Who do you like in the Timberwolves Mavs series? You want to go another Pepsi bet on it? I'll take my Wolves. You want Luka and the boys?
Yeah, I'll take. Okay. Although I think I will say this.
Hey, now, but because
hold on, before we
because the Wolves are not as big a favorite as you had, but the Wolves are minus 170.
They're minus 170, and the Mavs are plus 150, is what I saw.
Yeah.
So I'm going to. I want to go over the end of the other series, but in sake of the podcast, and yes, we'll go double or nothing on the Pepsi bet.
Love it.
And I'm going to fully give you the minus 175 for even money, and I'm not gonna fuss about it. I'm going to take.
I gave you minus 280, and guess what? The whole team got hurt.
Because you were annoyed, and you still fucking won because all the team got fucking injured.
Fucking genius.
Bullshit. And I know Bailey was over there rooting for me to lose.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I forgot.
Only Naismith.
Fucking Vanderbilt. Okay.
I think his granddaddy invented basketball. I'm just kidding. Oh, yeah, Luke Cornett. That's your boy. Oh, he was like, oh, yeah, he's balling.
Aaron Neesmith's dad did not invent basketball. I want to talk about these series real quick because they were fun. Right? Okay, let's start with Dallas because this one will be quicker, and then we'll go to the Nuggets. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. We should lead with those stronger series. Whatever. We don't fucking follow scripts here. We do whatever the fuck we want. Dallas. I don't care that you didn't watch Game 6. Dallas.
Oh, yeah. I was drinking, folks.
Yeah, I mean,
full disclosure.
Understandable.
I was, as Big Dog says, when you drink like Jimbo Morrison. You don't drink halfway.
You drink to see purple elephants.
Yeah. It was not good. It was a family event, though, so that's good.
I had a decent-sized wager on... Yeah, we keep it family-friendly here.
Yeah.
I had a decent-sized wager on the Mavs to win that series at plus 115. Got a good number on it. Closed closer to even. Mavs were playing the Thunder. We talked about this series a bunch. You kind of called how Game 4 would go. It felt like Dallas, to me, was going to win the series. They were the better team, but OKC just plays super hard, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is phenomenal. And so Dallas was winning the whole game. Game 4 looked like they were going to go up 3-1 and easily win the series. They don't. They lose Game 4, like kind of heartbreaking fashion at the end, come back, and you know, it is pretty impressive. I got to hand it to Luka and the Mavericks and the role players in the Mavericks. It was identical to round 1. In rounds 1 and 2, the Mavericks lost the first game on the road, stole Game 2, won Game 3, lose Game 4, and then win a Game 5 on the road to take control of the series, and then come back home and close it out Game 6. They were identical, exactly the same in Series 1 and 2.
Since you're not retired, you should get on Bovada and put $10 on that exact. I was looking.
Can you do that?
It was funny, yeah, because I was just looking to see what the prices are, and it was like exact series game deal. So you should do lose, win. Or no, sorry, they win Game 1? Or I can't remember what they did.
They lose Game 1.
Did they do it in both series?
Yeah. They lose Game 1, win 2 and 3, lose 4, win 5, win 6.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. What do you think it is, 100-1?
Probably at least.
I mean, it's got to be, especially with the T-Wolves.
Let's see if it has it. I think it does.
$100. I'm putting $100 on it. I'm going to fund the podcast for 2 years if I win.
Be about right. Yeah, you can. Series exact order.
What is it?
So what would, hold on, what would, say it again?
It would be loss.
Okay, so Minnesota and 1.
Okay,
hold on. There's a lot here. Okay, so Minnesota 1, Dallas 2.
Dallas 2 and 3.
Okay.
Minnesota 4.
Okay, Minnesota, Dallas, Minnesota. Okay.
Dallas 5.
Okay.
Dallas 6.
55-1. I guess people are like.
I guess that's probably the one that is the even though
it was it's got to be the most bet one here because it's 55-1.
That's what it is. It's literally like the T-Wolves are favored to win the series minus 175, but that's 55-1.
There's a couple other that are like 25-1 that are probably just like people holding serve at home.
Right.
Yeah, but
that's interesting. I'm definitely putting a bet on that. $100 to win 55. What is that? 5,500? Yeah, 5,500. Okay. But I have to hand it to the Mavericks. They win Game 5 on the road in OKC. They've been one of the best home courts we've ever seen in the NBA since they've been around in the playoffs. It's hard to win there.
Yep.
They win in OKC, and then they come back home. Game 6 was the most fun game of the series. Luka has a 29-point triple-double to lead the Mavericks, but I have to give credit to the Mavericks role players, and this is really impressive. Starting with Derek Lively. Derek Lively actually, weirdly enough, was drafted by OKC, and OKC drafted Cason Wallace out of Kentucky, and they traded him on draft day for each other. So the Mavs got Derek Lively, who was drafted by the Thunder, and Cason Wallace was drafted by the Mavs. He went over to OKC. Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford, who the Mavs made a move and traded for middle of the season, they split time a lot of the time. Like, it's weird. You'll watch. I don't think any NBA team subs this quickly like the Mavs do. Daniel Gafford will play the first 3 minutes of the game. Lively will come in at the 9-minute mark, almost every single first quarter. They'll usually split minutes. Lively was so good defensively in this series. I forget the number, but it's something like they're like in a per 100 possession, it's like 20 points better defensively with Lively on the floor versus not. Like he was that big of a difference defensively. Struggled offensively at times this season, but was big time in Game 6. In 30 minutes, he was 5 of 6 with 12 points and had 15 rebounds. A rebound every 2 minutes.
Wow.
4 offensive rebounds. He was a plus 26 in 30 minutes off the bench and was humongous in the game. Derek Jones Jr. had his best series of his career, best playoff games of his career. The last 3 games of the series averaged 19 in those 3 games. And that's what's happened. They have really doubled Luka. Luka's been a little bit hobbled. They've doubled Kyrie. They've made other players beat him. Those 2 guys stepped up. And then the biggest guy to step up all series and all playoffs has been PJ Washington. PJ Washington has been absolutely awesome. I think he's been one of the stars of the playoffs if you exclude the best players in the world. He had a 30-plus point game in the playoffs. This is a guy who averages 11 a game. And that's the thing. The Mavericks, if you look at them in the regular season, Tim Hardaway Jr. was their 3rd leading scorer by far. I think he averaged 15 a game and the next guy averaged 10. He's their 7th leading scorer in the playoffs. They've just had a ton of dudes step up and make shots, and it's, they're getting wide open looks because you have Luka and Kyrie drawing so much attention. Derek Jones and, PJ Washington getting wide open looks. But the key, and we talked about this, I don't know if you actually saw it, if you want to pull up the actual video of it, but the late foul on Shea is the only thing I want to discuss from this game.
Oh, yeah.
So, kind of a wild finish. Dallas is up 5 with a minute 10 to go. Shea pulls up, hits a crazy 3, come back down the other way. Dallas doesn't score. There's a foul off the ball, or not off the ball, but non-shooting with 30 seconds to go. Mavs up 2. What do you think about this rule, by the way? So Mavs are guarding the inbound. There's a foul before the inbound, which gives OKC 1 shot and the ball. So then when they score on the last possession, they actually take the lead by 1 instead of tying it. We saw it happen in the Pacers series in, I believe, Game 2 or Game 1, where they fouled Brunson. Nembhard grabbed Brunson, and they were up by 1. And so he made that free throw. They got the ball back, inbounded it, and he got fouled and made 2. The game was over. They're up 4 instead of 3. What do you think about that rule?
I think they have to have it only because there's just too many. I mean, if there's a bad free throw shooter on the floor and you just grab them and send them to the line. I get what you're saying, though. The coach could sub accordingly and not have them on the floor. I just don't. That's probably a rule that was put in ultimate. I know it's somewhat recently, but it's almost like an old Shaq rule, like a hack a Shaq deal, because there's guys that can't shoot. Yeah, no, that's probably what I would try to make that a judgment call. Knowing that you can't just grab somebody. I just think that makes it a little bit more tricky on the officials, because then it's okay, well, I guess you're a bad free throw shooter. You just stand there and don't move. I don't know what the solution is to it. I don't really like it because I've seen it sometimes where a guy is trying to play legitimate defense,
right,
and you call a foul, you could not call a foul. It was close, and they call it, and you get 1 in the ball. It's terrible, but yeah, they have to figure out something to do, because I don't like necessarily this part of it, but it's just, especially if it's a guard on a guard, where a guy's trying to get away and a ref thinks there's a little bit too much contact and blows his whistle. It's just a huge call. So
yeah, that's essentially.
I get both. I get arguments from both sides.
I do too. I get it, but my problem with it is, you're watching this game. It's a 2-point game with 30 seconds to go, and what happened was the guy ran. I forget who it was. I think it might have been PJ Washington. I forget who it was, but he ran through a screen is what happened. So the guy was setting a screen. He's trying to stick with his guy. He runs through a screen. The guy he fouled was a good free throw shooter. It didn't make sense. He's not intentionally. That's my problem. It has to be, to me, an intentional foul. So, if you see, and I get it, you're right, it can be tricky there. But if you see a big man setting a screen and somebody just purposely runs through him, or they go grab the big man on purpose, I get it. But if you foul Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which I think is who it was, if you foul Shai Gilgeous-Alexander,
there's no way you're doing that on purpose.
No,
yeah.
And if you want to make it a penalty where if the team who fouls is down, the team who's down does it, and it's on a good free throw shooter, you take a second off the clock or something, right? They're trying to save time. There's 0.7 or a second to go. They want to foul before the inbound. That's another reason they probably put this in, so you couldn't foul. But it's just frustrating to me when you see, like, this could have determined this game. It really could have, because the free throw goes in instead of a tie game. Now they're up 1 because of that play, and given it was a foul, but it would have been 2 shots otherwise.
Yeah.
Anyway, regardless, they go down. OKC scores. Dallas decides not to call a timeout. Luka drives in, probably got fouled by Lou Dort. That had happened the whole series. Kicks it out to PJ Washington. Gets Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the air. And, we've seen this call in the playoffs where if you hit the ball first and then the arm, it is usually, even on review, it's called marginal contact after the ball was released. However, in this specific instance, PJ Washington somehow held on to the ball as it was being tipped and then hit his arm. So technically he was still had possession and was shooting. The call stood. It was a big deal because it was OKC's last timeout.
Yep.
And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe now that I think about it, even if he won that challenge, OKC wouldn't have had a timeout left either, and I just don't know what they would have called. I'm pretty sure it would have been Dallas ball out of bounds, but Kyrie Irving was tipping in the ball as the whistle happened, and I'm just curious how they would have played it. It probably would have been Dallas ball on the sideline with however much time left, or on the baseline, but I don't know. Regardless, that determined the game, right? Like, a foul determined the game. Did you ever watch the highlight of it?
Yeah, I saw that. What you were talking about, as far as same thing happened last night in a call where they challenged it in the Minnesota game on Jokic, right? Where he hits all ball, like Cat hits all ball, but then Jokic doesn't lose it at all. And then when he comes to shoot it, it then goes down to the arm, right?
Right.
So it's like, I guess they call it then. I don't know. These reviews, for someone that didn't watch a ton of NBA, have been baffling me. There was one in like game 2 or 3 of that. We were watching at your house of the Pacers Knicks, where Brunson blocks a guy, and I mean, he hits the ball, but he comes through his back and smokes him over the top of the head too. And I go, why the fuck is he challenged this? Your dad goes, oh no, what a fucking idiot. And then they overturn it, and I go, well, I've never been more wrong. And you watched it, and you're like, yeah, it's a foul. I don't know what they're doing, but
horrible call.
I guess he got the ball, jarred the ball loose, and then follows through and makes contact.
See, that's the problem with the NBA is they have these strict rules. And it's like, well, the rule says if you hit the ball and then contact is after, doesn't matter. Yeah, but if you fucking smoke the guy,
yeah, I mean,
it's a foul.
He hit him pretty hard. Like, it wasn't like there was a lot of contact.
I just don't get why, like, they gone away from that where, like, if you release the ball and there's a foul after, they won't call it anymore, right? Like, it's not, I don't know. I get it, but
which I don't hate, because I hate all the free throws to begin
I agree.
with. These playoffs have been officiated, at least they're letting them play.
Yes,
it didn't work. It didn't necessarily work for the Nuggets last night, but I mean, the games are more fun to watch.
Well, and my problem with the Nuggets last night is, I believe for a stretch there, it was like there was a ton of shit called for a stretch, and then dude, I'm looking at it's crazy. The T-Wolves shot 30 free throws last night.
Yeah, I saw it, yep.
And the Nuggets shot 16. I mean, come on. Jokic got hacked. Karl Anthony Towns was playing with 2 open hands on Jokic on every possession. And we can talk about that series. Minnesota pulls off the biggest comeback in Game 7 history in the second half. They were down 15 at halftime, 20 in the third quarter. The Nuggets just fell apart. They scored a total of 37 the entire second half. Yep. Minnesota scored more than that. Early in the fourth quarter had scored more than that. Still, going into the fourth quarter, the Nuggets collapsed in the third. They were still up 1. The Nuggets were, and then Minnesota made every shot they threw up beginning of the fourth. All the momentum. We talked about it at the end of the third. I looked at the line, and the Nuggets were favored by 2.5, and I was like, I don't get that if you're watching the game and making that line. Like, I get it from a numerical standpoint.
Yeah.
You're at home, Game 7, but you could just feel it. I could feel it. And given, T-Wolves got very fortunate on some of those shots. Like, look, Gobert made a fadeaway jump shot at the shot clock buzzer. He made the first shot of the fourth quarter was like he lost the ball going up and got an and one. I mean, a lot of things went their way, but they won the game to their credit, and it was an impressive comeback with.
Yeah, when they were down 20, no one saw that one coming. I mean, everybody thought that was. I mean, I thought they may lose by 30, and then they come back to somehow win the game, and not to mention all with Anthony Edwards shooting 6 of 24 from the field,
crazy,
2 of 10 from 3, and he only made 2 free throws. He was 2 for 2 from the line.
He couldn't buy a bucket.
They won the game, which is just insane. I mean, Gobert was a plus 10, which is shocking, but
well, that's just because they kept him on. Yeah, they kept him on because when Karl-Anthony Towns came out, he had to be in.
Yep. Naz Reid ended up being I still think they're better with Naz Reid in there.
They're way better with Naz Reid, and they were talking about that at halftime.
Dude, every time they put in Alexander Walker, I always look, and their plus minus is always awful.
He was 0 for 6 and 0 for 5 from 3.
Yeah, and a minus 11. I mean, the guy who made big shots was McDaniels from the corner,
and it was all because of Michael Porter Jr. leaving him to help. I mean, it was really bad, and I want to talk about Michael Malone, because he literally thinks he's Greg Popovich. He really does. He thinks he's
played 47 minutes. I know that's what you're going to get into.
That's where I'm going here. I mean, so if you look at Nikola Jokic in these playoffs, he basically plays about 40 a game. Like 41 is a lot for him. I don't think he hasn't. I'm looking here. In the Lakers series, 39, 41, 39, 41, 41. In this series, 41, 38, 39, 41, 36. Why in the world do you go to something different here? He played, with the exception of 1 minute, he played every minute of the game, right?
Yeah, especially in that kind of game when you're up that many.
Exactly.
Why would you not just have him on his normal rest schedule?
Exactly.
And Jokic doesn't come now. Obviously, he cares about the game, but he doesn't come across as a guy that's saying, hey, don't rest me.
Right.
I don't need any rest.
No.
I don't think that happened.
Nope.
I think that, I don't know what he did there.
He had 15...
I would assume someone had to have asked him that post game, like, hey, what made you not go with the normal, especially, in a game. You would have thought that, like, in the first half, especially, right, that, like, with that lead, that he would have been on the normal rest. Was he or no? I mean, did he just play the whole?
Say it again.
Jokic had the normal rest in the first half, but I guess he didn't, because they said he only sat 1 minute.
He sat 1 minute.
Yeah.
And it made no sense because
when else did he sit? Was it in the third quarter at one point or something?
No, I think he got 1 minute like in the second.
Oh no, it was 47 minutes. Holy shit! Yeah, so he played every minute, but
he just didn't play 1 minute. Yeah, he just played in the second quarter. Came out for 1 minute.
Sorry, I was looking at Anthony Edwards, who played 44. Which is crazy
he literally did not come out but 1 minute, and that was a huge part of why they lost the game. So, if you watched it, Jokic had 15 rebounds in the first half. 15 rebounds in the first half, and yet 4 in the second half. And if you watch the end of the game, the T-Wolves made shots. That was partially why they won. But 2 things mattered, and this is why Michael Malone cost them this series. Number 1 was Joker was exhausted on the offensive end.
Yep.
He had not taken more than 5 threes in a game all playoffs. He was averaging somewhere around 3.5 attempts from the three-point line in the playoffs. Took 10. That's a tired guy. They would leave him a lot at the three-point line, especially when he struggled early. To his credit, he started 0 for 8 and hit 2 clutch threes late.
Yeah.
But, he shot 13 of 28 and was 2 of 10 from 3, right? So that means he was 11 of 18 from the field from 2. So he's shooting, close to 60%, over 60% from the field from 2. 6 of 7 from the free throw line, 19 rebounds. You look at the stat line, it's awesome. But the end of the game, he was burnt. That's when he missed the majority of his shots, not just from 3, but from 2. He couldn't go back anybody down. He couldn't make shots. They were running through him every play. Not only were they playing him every minute, he was getting the ball in the low post every play. They were doubling him on every play. And nobody could make a shot when they would kick it out.
He was exhausted.
And on the offensive glass for Minnesota, they killed him. Even the very end of the game, when it looked like Minnesota was going to win, Denver cut it to 5, and we were like, okay, got to get one stop here and get the rebound with 40 seconds to go. They got the stop, and Karl-Anthony Towns comes out of nowhere and putback slams it over everybody. He ran out of gas. Michael Malone made a massive massive error in this. And, it cost him the playoffs. You do not lose a game that you're up by 20 in the second half at home in a Game 7 with the MVP on your team. There is no other reason you lose this game than bad coaching. It really is true.
Well, especially, being up that many.
It's bad game management. They let them come right back. Not only up 20, once they got up 20, they lost the rest of that quarter by 19. They were only up 1 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they lost like an 8-minute stretch by, I think, 19 points. The good news, there is silver lining to this. Jokic gets to go home and
back to the ponies.
And be with his horses. I could not stay for parade. No, I have got to get home.
You know what's funny? I watched some of the post-game interview, not all of it, just a clip. But he goes, the commentator, the reporter's like, hey, Nicole, a lot of your teammates were saying like, this one really hurts because they felt you guys were the better team. And that's why this one stings, because you guys, really, they felt this was the team that could repeat and you guys were the better team in the series. And he goes, I do not believe that, we play 7 games. The team who wins is the better team. They were better than us. Yeah. That's what I mean. It's just so classic. Like, I just fucking love the guy.
Yeah,
he's fucking awesome. Somebody, God, what was one of my buddies gave him a nickname the other day. It was the Balkan Stallion or something like that. He's a Balkan Stallion.
Balkan Stallion.
But it wasn't his fault. He ran out of gas. Jamal Murray had some horrific turnovers in this game because I think he only had 4 turnovers, and 3 of them were rips by Anthony Edwards.
Oh, that
dunks.
Ended up in dunks, yeah.
And 2 of them were like big moments in the game, too.
Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. is fucking horrible. That also didn't help. 1 of 6 from 3.
Awful. There was that one, like, he had started the game like 1 of 9, and he catches the ball like middle of the third when they're on the run and shoots a step back contested 3 and doesn't draw the rim straight backboard like it was wide right by 3 feet. Yeah, I mean, they just, this roster didn't have enough this year. They lost Bruce Brown. That was a big loss. They lost Jeff Green. That was a big loss. They relied too much on Jokic and Murray. Murray did not come up big in the playoffs from a points perspective. He had some big games, but he did not shoot the ball well. I think he ended up shooting under 33% from 3 in the playoffs.
Yep.
Under 40% from the field, or right at 40%, and averaged 3 turnovers a game. Not good enough. And interesting. Do you think I want to preview this next series, but do you think the Nuggets will pay Murray? He wants a max deal. I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, they will. They'll end up paying him.
You think they're going to give him whatever he wants?
Yeah. I mean, the NBA's just gotten to that point. It's like all these guys did you have Haliburton making 50, whatever?
No, I agree. I just think that ruins your organization.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I probably wouldn't, but then the question's asked, okay, well, if not him, then who are we going to go get and spend the money on to be just as good?
Good point.
And Jokic probably wants him there. So, yeah, no, I have a feeling he's going to get paid. That'd be my guess.
I will say Jokic looked, at times in this series, he was very irritated with Murray. I mean, Murray had games of 3 of 18, 4 of 18, 6 of 17. I mean, he had some bad games in this series. Good. And there were some times where Jokic was getting real frustrated with him because it felt like Jokic was just cooking Gobert all night. And it didn't matter because Murray didn't do enough. Now, he was awesome in the first half of this game. Didn't step up in the second half. I also think I could see Jokic, I was having this conversation with Sam yesterday. We were like, how much longer does Jokic play? Like, I could see him just pulling an Andrew Luck. Like, he'd be the type of guy, if tomorrow he retired, it wouldn't shock me in the least bit.
How old is he?
32? I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah, 2 more years in him probably, and he just quits.
You think 2 years? He's 29, actually. He's
man, I think he'll play to 33, 34, but who knows?
I mean,
like you said, he's got all the money he needs. He seems like a guy that'd be like, no, I'm just not playing this year.
Yeah, he's like,
I stay home with my ponies.
I go home. I don't need basketball. Nobody likes their job.
Nobody. That's right.
Maybe somebody do. They are lying.
They're lying.
They're lying. The Balkan Stallion is just. I hope he stays forever because I love Jokic. But
did you see that he came for one of the series? He came everybody says, my niece is like that movie Despicable Me. He came dressed as like the bad guy Gru. Do you know what he looks like? Yeah, it's pretty funny. He showed up to the arena dressed like him, and I was like, that's fucking hysterical.
And then
he leaned into that.
And then they were like, I saw a tweet that was like, he's really playing into this. And it was before the national anthem, and it had his hands doing the Gru stance behind him like this. And it was like, man, that's fucking classic. He's great for the league. I hope he does play a long time. I'm joking about him retiring, but legitimately, like, it really wouldn't fucking surprise me if, like,
I don't think it would surprise anybody.
No,
if he decided he wasn't coming back next year, they'd be like, I could see it.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I could see him just pulling an Andrew Luck. But, so we'll move on to preview this real quick. Let's talk Mavs and T-Wolves. Unlikely matchup, I guess. I think most of us thought this would be the Nuggets and the Mavs or the Nuggets and the Thunder. Instead, we're getting T-Wolves, Mavs. I know you bet on the T-Wolves with me just now, but do you legitimately believe the T-Wolves are a significantly better team here? Are they really that much better than Dallas?
Man, I think they're going to win the series just simply because how hard they play defense. I think they just play. Now, Dallas is, give them credit, because I remember seeing some of these Oklahoma City and their score. Like, they've been trying to lock in on the defensive end, but I just don't. I mean, I think the T-Wolves are a different animal, like when they're really, really playing defense. And they kind of showed that against the Nuggets. I mean, not to say that, like, if I was actually, unretired and betting on it, I would lay the -170, but I do think they're going to win the series. Not like a guarantee by any stretch, but if I had to pick somebody just straight up, I think I'm going to say the T-Wolves win.
That's fair.
Just simply because of the defense and, defense side of the ball. I don't know how, who's going to be tracking on Luka all the time. I guess it's going to be Mike Conley, right? I mean, I don't know who.
Well, I think they're going to put, I could be wrong, I think they're going to put Anthony Edwards on Luka. Well, that's a good point, because
I don't know who's going to guard him. I mean, because you would know better than me.
Having Anthony Edwards on Jamal Murray is one thing. Like, okay, Jamal Murray is a good player. He's an all-star. Luka's an MVP, right? Like, I know he hasn't won one, but he's an MVP caliber player, and not in the same. Jamal Murray is not in the realm of Luka. And it's one thing for Anthony Edwards to guard Jamal Murray all game, but you're going to have him guard, like every other team I've seen that guards Luka, they have a guy who's a defensive guy who guards him the whole game, right? Like, the best defender on the team is going to guard Luka.
Isn't McDaniels considered a pretty good defender?
Yeah, but I think he would torch McDaniels. Yeah.
I think Luka, my whole thing is Luka's going to torch anybody, right? So it just depends on, I think, what you think you can do to limit him. He's always going to hit those tough fadeaway shots, but, get a guy that is going to be able to stay in front. Most people can't stay in front of him, but I'm just saying, make him hit the tough shots, and then you get better matchups, around the court. Because I always think that Luka's going to get his, right? Yeah. So what does it matter if he scores 35 or 45? You just hope he shoots a little bit, less of a percentage, and they're not super easy.
It's a good point, because what happened in the last two series essentially is these teams tried to take Luka away, and these other guys got great looks and showed they can beat you.
Yeah,
so if
I don't
you try to do that, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right move. I kind of agree with you. But then again, you see Luka go out in there and win games by himself sometimes. I do think what you said, though, is right. I think I don't know if this is the right move, but I think what they will do is I think they're going to put McDaniels on Luka, and I think they're going to put Ant on Kyrie. Now, down the stretch, if Luka's hot, I think they go and switch it and put Ant on Luka, because I think Anthony Edwards, weirdly enough, is the best defender on the team. If you watched him guarding Jamal Murray when he locks in, like, Jamal Murray could barely dribble the ball up the court. He is just an unbelievable athlete.
Oh, no, when he locks in, he's just such
absurd.
A good athlete.
It's just the energy expended if you need Ant on a team who's not a good offensive team. I mean, you look at the numbers.
That's my thinking
it's
on it. It's like, do I want him giving all that effort on the defensive side of the ball? Exactly. I think you're right. I think they're going to throw a lot of different looks at Luka. I think there'll be 3 or 4 different guys to try to guard him.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably the best, your best hope. But I really do think they need to not help as much as the Thunder did, because in PJ Washington, these guys just wide open for threes, and that's like why he went off, because he was wide open most of the time.
That's exactly what happened.
Did Hardaway make any shots in that series, like towards the end?
He had one game where he was huge.
Where he scored like 19 points in the fourth quarter or something.
I think it might have been game. I think it was game 3.
That's what I think too. Yeah,
I think it was game 3. He had like 17 in the game,
quarter,
they were like all in one quarter. It was game 2. Game 2 at OKC. He hit 6 of 10, 2 of 4 from 3, hit a couple free throws. Yeah, he was massive in that game. The rest of the series, 8, 6, 5, and 2. So he didn't do anything the rest of the series. But he's also coming off an injury, and so he probably will be a little bit better. He didn't even start in this series, right? But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fun series. I think. I don't think the T-Wolves are loads better than the Mavs. I still think. I don't know. I still think the Mavs at this moment have the best player on the floor. I know Anthony Edwards is really good. He wasn't the best player in the last series. He's arguably he was the second best player, but he had games where he wasn't even this, like game 7, which is what was my problem with it. Jokic got pissed, and I had a problem with this. Like, he's waving to the crowd and talking shit and all this stuff, and it's like, dude, you just shot 6 of 24 in a game 7. Like, I understand you're hyped and you won and whatever. Like, do whatever you want. I don't really give a shit. But it's kind of like perform if you're going to do that. Like, I never see MJ go 6 for 24. And I'm not saying he's MJ, but like that's who he aspires to be. Kobe, MJ, right? Like, I don't see Kobe or MJ talking shit after like laying an egg in a playoff game in a game 7. That was kind of a weird deal. I don't know why he decided to do that. We
all know that Anthony Edwards is the bastard child of Michael Jordan. Everybody knows that. They look just alike. The killer mentality. But I do believe that you are right that MJ want to go 6 of 24 and pump up the crowd. The one thing I will say that's good in the T-Wolves camp is that it's impressive that he played that poorly and they still won the game. They play that good at defense.
I agree.
Or if the Mavs, like if Luka went 6-24, there's no way the Mavs win a game,
I agree
right?
with you on that.
So I don't know. It should be a fun series, though. I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
I still think, and we can close this series out with this. I still think it took a 20-point fourth quarter or second half comeback by the T-Wolves to win this series. This is the first series ever that a team that has had Rudy Gobert on the team made it to a conference finals. I still think that, and we were talking about it in the game, like his reluctance, especially early in the third quarter, the Nuggets came out and scored back-to-back buckets. One was a layup by Murray right in Gobert's face, and we're like, what is he doing not going to Naz Reid?
Well, especially in that, it was 20 points at that point, right? Like, why don't you try something different?
And it didn't matter. It didn't matter because a lot of guys stepped up for the T-Wolves, but Gobert made a couple like ridiculously lucky shots, but he's horrible, and he was horrible in the series. At halftime, Charles Barkley was saying they need to take Gobert out of the game. Like, that's how bad it was. Yeah, and Charles Barkley was kind of like defending Gobert when Draymond came on the night before and was kind of shitting on him. Like, they don't hate Gobert. It's just like he's just that bad and he's that ineffective. And I just think even in the Mavs series, I think it's going to get exploited in some areas. I don't think that you can win a championship. I don't think you can get to a championship with Gobert. Maybe this team is good enough defensively. Maybe Anthony Edwards is good enough. The Mavs aren't some juggernaut. They're obviously the underdog in the series. The T-Wolves are the favorites. But I tell you what, I just think that it's going to come back to bite them at some point. I don't know if that's going to be in this series or in the championship against the Celtics. I would feel really good, even though, yes, I think the number in terms of odds, I think the Celtics would be a much smaller favorite against the T-Wolves. Not much, but they'd be a smaller favorite against the T-Wolves than the Mavs. That said, telling you the matchup is much better against the T-Wolves because assuming Porzingis is back, because they will not be able to play Gobert effectively.
What's the deal with Porzingis?
And they won't pull. They refuse to pull Gobert. Like they basically said.
Oh no, they're not
ever going to sit him, and so they are going to They're going to lose that series if that happens.
They need him to have a couple more babies so he can stay away.
I don't know. Porzingis is out to start this series, and I think they're thinking kind of like what you're talking about with Anunoby, but.
Oh, just rest him.
Yeah, sure. But for them, it's like, we don't need him to win any of these East series. Why would we risk it? So let's get him back for the finals. So like maybe he comes back like very into this series, just gets a few games under his belt to get kind of back in some rhythm. but I don't see it was, I believe, a calf strain. I think that's what it is. So they're being very cautious with it, which is good. So I don't know. We'll see. But as of now, he's not going to play at least in games 1 and 2 of this series. All right. You got anything else on that?
No. Just the fact that Gobert needs to be on the Tyreek Hill baby train, so they can maybe get Gobert out of the game and he can be on paternity leave. Did you read that article about that? That should be the dumbass of the week right there.
Oh, what is it?
Tyreek Hill.
What? Tell me.
It's on my phone somewhere. It's something like Tyreek Hill is expecting another child.
Are you shitting me?
And it's his first with his actual wife, but he's had 3 kids in the last year and a half.
I thought
so. It's the first one with his wife this year, but he's had 3 other kids.
I thought they got divorced.
He is already a father of 10 kids with 4 different women. He's going for GOAT status. He wants Antonio Cromartie's record. He's going for Cromartie. Can he do it? I don't know. But half of his paycheck, at the very least, is going to child support at this point. I mean,
he has a
good God, dude. He's going for the Cromartie. Let me see how many kids Cromartie has.
I think it's 11.
I remember when they asked him to name them, and he was like, oh, shit.
I think, wait, hold on. I want to know, Bailey, do you know? I want to know who he has this new baby with. Because
no, the new baby's with his new wife. He got married again.
But hold on. Is it Kenny Vaccaro's sister? I thought they got divorced.
No. But Cromartie has 14, it says in this article, 14 known children. So you got to add at least 6 more for the unknown. So 20. But that's Tyreek Hill. That's child's play numbers, if you will.
In all honesty,
like I did there?
You have to.
Yeah, no, he's gonna get there.
In all honesty, you have to. Like, you must be purposely doing this. No.
I have no comment on that. Well, we won't go any more.
I want to know.
We can't go any further into detail on this, but the guy's
Bailey, do you think they have to be? He has to be trying to do this.
Hate the game. That's
don't
right.
hate the player, hate the game. I like
Bailey
the line.
needed a mic for that.
I told you he needs a mic. We should have given him one today.
All right, last thing we're going to cover today, NHL playoffs, right?
Wait, no, hold on.
Write down what do we need.
Before we do, I have one. It's an NBA topic, but it's something you want to talk about.
Oh, God.
No. Listen. Will you stop?
I'm just kidding.
Will you fucking stop, you motherfucker?
I want to talk about the Lord's game, the NHL. Oh, you're taking the Pepsi back? Well, you told you could take those home.
Fucking mine.
I told you could take them home.
Fucking mine. All right, no. I want to discuss the Turner Sports situation because I think we're hearing reports now that basically they were trying to make a deal where NBC got the contract because it looked like Turner wasn't going to match the 2.5 or 2.4 billion a year, whatever they were offering.
Yeah.
So they're trying to make a deal where they had Thursday night NBA on TNT, just one night a week, so that they could keep that, inside the NBA show going or whatever. Now, instead, NBC says, no, we don't want to do that. I get it. Like, from NBC's perspective,
they would never do that because they're hoping to get Charles Barkley and all those guys.
Right.
And
if you're going to be paying, they're to get it, they're paying an absurd amount of money.
Yeah.
They're not going to pay that if they have to share it. So it sucks because obviously everybody knows, everybody agrees. I think it's a pretty consensus thing. That is the best show on TV, and in terms of sports shows.
No.
And it shows how good the show is because you don't even like NBA that much, and that's probably your favorite show to watch.
I'll watch those guys.
And you're a much bigger NFL, NHL, college football fan, and I get it. I really am too. I like the NBA playoffs, but in terms of like NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA is my fourth. And so having that show gone would be a travesty. Do you think the ratings for the NBA, not that they're great during the regular season anyway, do you think the ratings would take a significant hit from
Absolutely.
this? I think so too.
My idea is what I told you. I don't know how TNT does it. I don't know how they swing it. You just save $2.5 million by not renewing the NBA. Whether NBC wants you to do it or not, it doesn't matter if you have to pay for the rights to show replays. They can't keep, they can't just say we're not going to give you highlights, I don't think. I don't think the NBA would allow them to do that. there's a way that you give all those guys raises at TNT because, like I said, you just saved $2.5 million.
Right.
And you have that show, like, used to be Thursday nights, right? So you have that show Thursday night and, like, maybe Mondays and Thursdays, twice a week, where they talk the NBA. They do the same bullshit they're used to doing. And if NBC's showing games at night, they may have people, tune in for the game, and then they're immediately going over there. But I think the majority of the people would rather watch those guys break down the NBA and talk about what's been going on that week in the NBA, just like they do on, like, I think it's called Inside the NFL or whatever that show is that they have on Showtime now, with whatever it may be, that they do once a week. And I just think that the ratings might go down a little bit on the show just because the games aren't on right before them. But I mean, if they did that show twice a week for 3 hours and you pay those guys, say, hey, we'll pay you even more, for an extra $5 million a year, they won't go anywhere, or say we'll match whatever NBC's trying to bring you over there for. Why wouldn't they just stay where they're comfortable and stay at Turner? Because none of them want to leave Ernie Johnson anyway. No one wants to leave Ernie.
That's the key.
Ernie said he's not going anywhere because he calls the World Series for Turner Sports.
Right. So that's the key. That's
baseball, all kinds of stuff. So
wait, so do they do the World Series on TBS? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the key here, I think. And if Ernie Johnson, it's crazy how much power Ernie Johnson has, because you mentioned this when we were talking about this a couple weeks ago at dinner with my dad. It's like Charles says this, Shaq says it's like Ernie makes that show. Like, without Ernie, that show is not the same. Obviously, Chuck and Shaq, or specifically Chuck, are the most entertaining guys. Yeah. But the whole dynamic, like, even we were watching last night and you were like, oh, where's Shaq? Like, even just having one of them off, the whole four together are key. Yeah. And Ernie hosting the show is key. So the fact that he refuses to leave now makes it a really tough situation, because I think if Ernie was willing to leave, I don't think the rest of them really care. Obviously, they probably like Turner Sports. They've been there for a long time. They're loyal. They have that whole crew that works for them, like Underdog and all those guys. Like, they like those dudes. But if they were able to, like, take care of the crew and be like, hey, we want to bring our crew here, or whatever, they would probably go to NBC just to do it for a couple more years, because they want to talk about it and do it. But I agree with Ernie not leaving. I think they're going to stay together, and I think that's the only option for TNT. The NBA is stupid for even allowing this. They should just take I get it. It's a lot of money over 10 years. I understand. It's $10 billion. Right. It's an extra $1.2 billion a year, roughly. I get it. But, like, if Turner could if you could get Turner to come to, like, 1.7 or something, where it's not like a huge difference, and it's like maybe you could offset it with ratings. I have no idea. Maybe you could get them to do more shows, whatever. Maybe it's not economically viable. I have no idea. I just know, as a fan, them doing that show makes me more inclined to watch the games and to keep the TV on after. If it's on ESPN, I turn it off and go do something else.
My mom watches zero, but when she's out in California with a boyfriend, she's like, oh, I like what she will watch those guys because they're entertaining.
Right.
No idea what's going on, but she likes watching that show. So I think it's that simple. I think they got to figure out a way to keep them together. I get why Turner, first of all, it's a shit ton of money, but why they're partial of not signing it too is they don't know if Ernie's going to do this another 10 years.
Good point.
They don't know if Shaq and Charles have plenty of money. They don't know if they're going to do it for another 10 years. So if they don't have guarantees that show is going to be along with the NBA, then why would they pay that?
Yep.
I just think that you've already saved that much money. If I'm a TNT executive, I go, hey guys, here's great news. We don't have the NBA anymore. We're going to pay you $10 million more here, every single one of you, to do the exact same thing twice a week. They'd be like, done. There's no problem.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll just talk about the NBA. It doesn't matter if Kenny runs up to the board and breaks down. Like, no one fucking cares what's going on X's and O's wise in the first half.
I agree.
It's just that show's basically, it's content, it's comedy. It just doesn't matter.
They could literally break off and do their own independent, like, podcast once a week, and it would be the biggest podcast in the world. It really would be. They could do the same thing they're doing now, have their own little studio, do a podcast, and they'd have even more freedom to say shit on there, and it'd be funny as shit, and everybody would watch. I'm sure they're going to do something, right? Like, I couldn't imagine them, losing it and then just, that's it.
Charles is all about the money too, man. He's not, if TNT offered him that, like, more money than NBC's offering him, and Ernie staying, I do not think Charles is going to be like, well, no, they're going to have the high. He didn't fucking care. He didn't care that they're going to be like in between games over there. I don't think that matters to him at all.
Wait. So you're saying he would leave or he wouldn't?
No, he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Especially if TNT matches whatever NBC is willing to do, which they should have absolutely no problem doing that because they're saving money.
Exactly.
Not having
they're
going to
have.
Yeah.
I mean, they're saving up $1.2 billion a year.
Yeah.
Do you think that? Oh, well, I guess you offset whatever profit they're making from that. But do you think that? Let's say Charles, for sake of argument, Charles leaves and goes to NBC. Would you watch that if it was just Charles? And they have some other dudes?
Probably, depending on who else is on there with him. But I just really don't think he would unless it's necessary. He was on Dan Patrick talking about it. He goes, Dan, I've been here, whatever, how many years? Like, I do not want to leave. If they lose it, then we're going to have to figure something out. But he goes, ideally, I'd stay here with everybody and we'd figure out a way to do it regardless. But he goes, I do not want to leave, but I have in my contract, if they do lose it, I have the ability to leave just in case I have to, essentially. Yeah. But I think he has that in his contract just so he can negotiate more money and he stays. I don't think he's really planning on going anywhere.
I think you're right.
I don't know, because he likes earning. He likes working with Shaq. He likes working with Kenny. Unless Kenny and Shaq were just like, oh, we'll go with you and we're gone, they would try to do it. They don't want to do it without earning, but I think they would try to do it without earning. But I think TNT is going to match any money they're thrown their way, I believe, but we'll see.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Okay, give me hockey playoffs. I know we got a Game 7 tonight between the Oilers and the Canucks. We've got 3 other series set. Stanley Cup final or Stanley Cup playoffs. We're almost down to the conference finals, just like the NBA.
Stars beat the Avalanche, had the Avs in that series. Goal came all down to goaltender play. It was pretty even series. I'd say the Stars outplayed him. Stars deserved to win, but having Ottinger as their goalie helped them a lot. He's
awesome.
He's top 5 goalie in the league. Panthers dominate the Bruins. If it wasn't for Swayman, I don't even think the Bruins win 2 games. If you look at all the games, I think the Panthers outshot him in every game but one, and it wasn't just like outshot him. I remember you looked at the stats on one of the games and like doubled them up on shots. Like, I mean, they dominated that game. Rangers, Hurricanes. Thought the Hurricanes would win that series. That came down to goaltender play. Igor, butcher's last name, Shakushkin, was dominant. Stopped the Hurricanes pretty much every single night. That's the only reason the Canes didn't win that series. Panthers, Rangers will be a good series. 2 Russian goaltenders that are really good in that one going head-to-head. I think the Panthers will ultimately beat the Rangers. Tonight, Game 7, I read here that one of the Canucks' best players is out. They're already down the goalie.
They're down their goalie?
Yeah, they have been. This is their second goalie.
Oh, that's why they were talking so much about the goalie.
Demko is like, he was one of the top 3 finalists for I think it's the number 1 goaltender is the Vezina Trophy, I think. But anyway, been really, really good all year. The Stars would rather play the Canucks, especially with how banged up they are and all the firepower Edmonton has. But the game tonight's a coin toss, man. Edmonton always blows these games.
Yeah, how are they minus goals. 160? I get
they're
it.
Just, I mean, the Vegas people love betting on them, and they're just, the most talented, first line in hockey with McDavid and Draisaitl. So we'll see what happens. I think the Stars will end up beating the Canucks or the Oilers. I think they're going to get to the Stanley Cup. I'm going to say Stars, Panthers. I still have the Panthers
winning it,
who I picked, I think, from the beginning to win it all. So I think they're going to end up winning it.
I'm going for the Stars, baby. They almost got screwed in that Game 6 where there was a goal and they scored a goal in overtime and it got reversed. That was kind of a crazy deal.
My buddy was, we were somewhat arguing about it. He knows hockey a lot better than me. I thought he wasn't in the crease, but then he did come off his high horse because he's a Stars hater after they won the game. And he said, in the regular season, there's no way that's overturned. But in that situation with that call on the ice and it was going to end the series, in Colorado, there's a big factor in it.
I
right?
get that.
So,
They were talking about it on the TNT type show and they
what
were
did
all
they
saying
say?
it was a goal.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
The guy from the podcast that you like, what's his
Biz
name?
was like, that's a
He was
goal.
like, he said literally, quote, Dallas got hosed. Dallas got absolutely hosed.
And that's what I thought too. My buddy's just a Stars hater, and I figured he would come off the Stars hating high horse. But
quick question: I see the Panthers here minus 150 against the Rangers. Is that worth a bet or
to
not?
win the series?
To win the series, or is that too?
I
too
think the
expensive?
Panthers are a better team, but man, it just always comes down to the goalies, man.
And the Rangers have a really good goalie.
Yeah, Igor's really, really good, and Bobrovsky for the Panthers is great. I mean, you might want to take a flyer with them to win the series. I think they'll win that series against the Rangers. Stars should be able to beat the Oilers or the Canucks. They're just a more sound team than both of them. So
the Stars are actually the favorites to win the Stanley Cup.
I believe it.
Barely.
I believe it because the Rangers-Panthers series is kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, I see. They're going to be a bigger favorite.
And they think that the Stars are going to come through. I think
it's plus 190, plus 200 versus the Panthers.
Yeah, I think if the Panthers do play the Stars in like that series, Panthers will be like minus 130 to win the cup or something. It'll be close. So Stars will be favored over the Rangers, I believe, in a series.
It is interesting here. Just looking at this, we're almost done here, but you can bet on who will win the West. And because it's obviously Game 7 tonight and the Canucks are an underdog, you can get the Canucks at plus 525, which is just interesting because if they win Game 7, probably they're plus 250 in that series or more.
No, they'd probably be plus 180.
Right, and so you're getting about plus 525 if they win tonight.
Yeah.
Might be worth a couple bucks. I just saw that on here. Anyway, all right. I think that's all we got this week.
Remember, folks, big dog, big reveal next week. We're gonna get Bailey a mic, but we're gonna
have a guest next week.
We're gonna hear about Big Dog, what he's done to get where he is in life.
I don't care. Do not care at all. But
hey, dude, we got to pay the bills. It's it's an ad read.
Yeah,
it's basically an ad read.
Yeah. We don't forget. Tune in tonight. Indiana Fever play.
Oh, Jesus.
Caitlin Clark's fourth WNBA game. Bailey and I will definitely be watching.
Plug that after Big Dog.
Yeah, that's right. We'd like to apologize to Rudy Gobert. We ran out of time, so maybe next time. But we will have a guest on. We'll have a guest on, I think, next week. But we will have some guests coming on soon. We've talked about it. We were supposed to have them today, but didn't work out. No big deal. I think I touched on everything. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe. Remember, we're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the start of football season. That might be a little ambitious, but we're going to try to get there. Yeah, you need to
start giving away from some fucking jerseys.
I'm not made of money over here, all right?
We'll get Big Dog jersey giveaway. Big Dog's jersey giveaway.
Oh, I like that. Okay, no, you got to get him to do that. So we'll do the next time we get at least 25 comments and at least 50 likes, we will give away a jersey. And it'll be the Big Dog's jersey giveaway. Any NFL, NBA, or college football jersey, we will give away. But you got to comment and like the video and watch and subscribe to get it. So make sure you do all those things. Check us out on social media at SlobPod, Twitter and Instagram. Follow me on Twitter at Dylan Leak. Put all that in the description. And thank you guys for tuning in. We will catch you guys next week.